Hello everybody. Today we're going to talk about usability and best practices in web design. Okay. These are important concepts because apart from just the programming aspect, you need to think about what what the user experience is. When somebody uses your website, um, are they going to enjoy their experience, or is it going to leave them frustrated and confused? Okay. Now, this is more important for the professional aspect because what this means is that if your website doesn't work smoothly, it doesn't captivate your audience, doesn't give them a good experience, the first thing they're going to do is just leave your website. They're going to go somewhere else, find information somewhere else. Okay, there's no reason for them to stay on your website and not look for your stuff elsewhere because the internet is just full of stuff, and probably a lot of people have a lot of the same information that you do. So you want to actually keep your audience, and that's what usability and best practices does for you. It makes your site a good website where people want to stay there and browse. Okay, so usability talks about how easy is your website to use. Okay, so when people are browsing around, can they find what they want? Is the information presented in a clear way? Can they browse? Can they skim? Because a lot of people, they don't read every word of a website. They often look at the headings, right? And they kind of look for the sections that is interesting to them. Okay. That also goes in terms of sizes and resolutions. When I have something on my screen, can I see all the important things, or do I have to scroll down? Right? What happens if my window is a smaller size? Okay, what if my window is not full screen, or I don't have a certain resolution? Now, I mentioned resolution a little bit before. I'll mention it again here. Resolution is how many pixels can fit in your screen. Now, a lot of modern day computers have very high resolution, meaning they can fit a lot of things inside your screen. So if you've ever looked at your MacBook, have you ever wondered why everything looks so tiny? It's because they're trying to fit so many things into that screen, and they're able to because your MacBook has a high resolution, or many, not just Mac, but many modern day computers. Whereas a lot of the older computers, if you open up a website, everything seems kind of really big and you can't fit as much inside, okay, because they have a low resolution. Their dots are bigger in a sense. Okay, a little bit more on that a little bit later. Also, navigation. If I want to find, for example, if I'm on Dell's website and I want to find their most recent laptops, can I find that easily? Or am I clicking all over the place trying to look for where can I find laptops? Where can I find laptops? And then after like 2-3 minutes and I still can't find laptops, I'm going to say, screw you, Dell. I'm going to buy a computer elsewhere. I'm going to look at HP or something like that. Or yeah. Okay, so navigation is important. Probably due to the extensiveness of our projects, you might not have too much with navigation. You're probably going to have a fairly straightforward navigation. Okay, anyways, so talking about sizes and resolutions. So these numbers talk about how many dots they can fit into your screen. So going across 640, down 480. That is considered a low resolution because if you can only fit 640 dots, that means each of those dots is relatively big compared to if I look at twice that size. Okay, twice that size means I can fit twice the number of dots. I can fit 1,200 dots in that same size, right? That might be 13-inch or 14-inch or whatever that is, or 26 centimeters or 30 some centimeters. But the more amount of dots you can fit in that space, the smaller the dots are. Okay, and that's what those numbers talk about. So you can see back in the day, 2001, most people were around that size. Okay, so web designers, when they're designing their web pages, they would generally gear towards that. Now we're kind of more on this end here, okay, that end of the spectrum. And if you want to look at some more recent statistics, you can go to the W3 schools. They do talk a little bit about that. But let me just say that for the purposes of this course, if you're going to design something, I would look into around this spectrum here. Okay. I did mention this website before, how big is my browser? So if you're wondering like how big is that, you can always go to this website and check. Okay. And I made an example with Facebook that they have a fixed size about 1000 pixels, 1024. So make sure you consider that. Otherwise you get that effect that you're designing too big. So I'm designing for HD 1900, but my user only has 1200 resolution. And so what's going to happen is my web page is going to get chopped off when they look at it, right? Because they can only fit 1200, but I've designed for 1900. So be careful about that. Okay, so I kind of summarized it there. Nowadays, more and more people are using mobile devices, tablets, and stuff like that. So people now are more and more designing using a responsive design, meaning depending on the size of your device, the web page will respond to that. So if I have a mobile device, which is usually 480 pixels across, something like that, your whole web page will get rearranged to use a CSS for that device size. Okay, for the scope of this course, you don't need to do a responsive design. For the purposes of this course, we can assume that our users are around there. Okay, so for this course, you can kind of assume that your average user, or let's assume 95%, will have this resolution or higher. Okay, so you don't have to design for 800 pixels. You can design for 1024, kind of like Facebook and many other pages. That's if you're using a fixed width. Okay, if you do decide to kind of dig deeper and look into responsive design, I'll be pretty impressed. Go ahead. I do encourage it if you have the time. Okay, but it does take a little bit of extra work. So if you're already struggling kind of getting some of the other concepts, just kind of stick to a fixed width. Don't worry about the responsive design. Otherwise, you're just going to get really confused and you're going to end up with something that just is worse than anything else. Okay, so consider that. Okay, so moving apart from actual sizes, let's talk about navigation. Okay, so not being able to find the information you're looking for, that's a really, really big mistake in usability. Okay, so if you're talking about a website that talks about traveling in Italy, I want to know, okay, which are the places I can go to, and that should be very clear. I have a link to go to Milan, link to go to Venice, link to go to Rome. Those things should be very clear to find, and I shouldn't have to be searching around for that hidden somewhere in some paragraph. That's what navigation bars are really good for, right? Navigation, very easy to see at the top of your screen. These are the places that I can go, right? I don't have to kind of scroll down, read every paragraph and say, okay, there's the link to Rome, right? We don't want that. Okay. Putting things in familiar places. Okay. When you go to a website, think about it. Where do you usually find the navigation? Right? Navigation is usually right at the top of the screen. Here's a good example. So if you look at Samsung's homepage, right, and it's pretty straightforward. I have a view of their most recent product, and you're like, oh, cool. Okay, so I want to look at some more of their products. I want to know what Samsung's all about. So let's find their navigation. Now, very often you'll see things are expected. So logo, usually somewhere around the top, main content in the middle, and navigation. Okay, navigation, You'll find more and more this kind of thing because this is very mobile friendly. If this was on a mobile device where, you know, my screen size was something like that, that would make it really easy to access. You can see that they do have this responsive design that, you know, depending on the size of my browser. But yeah, if you want to go with that. Anyways, more traditional design, if I actually click on the menu, then you can actually see their navigation up there, and you can see again their logo and the top part, their navigation is there. Okay, so yeah, familiarity, right? People are very familiar with certain things. At the top, there's certain things. At the bottom, there's certain things. And when people are browsing, they don't want to, you know, really click and then have to click again, have to click again, and keep having to click to find what they want. They want to be able to find everything very quickly. So these are all the things that are available. They're all right there, right? These are all things that are available. They're right there. I don't have to click and then click again, then click again, click again. Less clicking, less deep you have to go, the better in general. Okay. Other things to consider about usability and best practices, things like font size and colors. Okay, make sure your stuff is readable. So don't choose a font that makes it really straining on the eye. So if you choose like a cursive font or something like that, like handwriting, handwriting is good for if you just have like one word, like a title or a heading that uses, you know, cursive font. But if I have a whole paragraph using cursive font, that just really makes it difficult to read. So really consider the types of fonts that you use, the sizes, so that when people look at your website, they can say, oh, okay, that's very easy for me to read and go through. Okay, color combinations. You do want to have some sort of feeling of a theme to your website. So choose a few colors and use that kind of as a theme. And I'll show you a tool that's very nice to use to consider colors. Okay, but I'll talk about that in a little bit. First of all, I'll give you a few resources. This is a very good resource talking about usability concepts. Okay, I really encourage you to look at this one. Okay, because it talks about different concepts. It even rates them. It ranks them, like how important these various concepts are. So usability regarding navigation, usability regarding layout, etc. So that's a really good one. This is another decent one. Talks about, I think it gives like 7 tips or something like that. Not bad. And some further ones. Okay, so you don't have to do this activity, but I usually do this in class, but kind of browse around and kind of see the various tips about usability that are in there.